Welcome to the World of DaaS, a show for data enthusiasts. I'm your host, Auren Hoffman, CEO of SafeGraph and GP of Flex Capital. For more conversations, videos, and transcripts, visit safegraph.com/podcasts. Hello, fellow data nerds. My guest today is Jaan Tallinn. Jaan is the founding engineer of Skype and file sharing service Kazaa and co-founder of the Center of the Study of Existential Risk at the University of Cambridge and the Future of Life Institute. Jaan, welcome to World of DaaS.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'm very excited that you're here. Now, what are the biggest threats to humanity that you see right now?
Yeah, for me, the by far the biggest risk currently, as we stand, comes from uncontrolled AI. Basically, the way I've been putting it is that humanity, or let's put it that way, AI labs, and by extension humanity, is trying to make AI as smart as quickly as possible while using the fact that it is dumb to control it.
Yeah.
And this situation cannot go on forever. But like that said, of course, like AI is not the only risk. I do think that advanced bio capabilities will pose a distant second. And then we have like a long list of kind of more
nuclear war or other types of things.
It turns out like it's kind of difficult to kill everyone with detonating all the nuclear arsenal. But it's like this is based on our models, right? So like we might be wrong about those models. So like there might be some nuclear definitely was an existential risk. It was the first man-made existential risk that humanity faced, because there was a period from mid-30s to mid-40s during which we did not know whether the planet can survive a nuclear detonation or not.
Yep.
And then, of course, we find out in 45 that it could.
And so, given that you think AI is such a big potential risk to humanity, like what can be done? What should we be doing differently right now?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think people who are closer to AI development, especially the research side, just should have like more humility. And I'm glad to see that like more and more people are kind of recognizing this now. That look, we really don't know how to make AI do what we want once it becomes like sufficiently smart to do things like be deceptive. I mean, already like if you look at ChatGPT, etc., it's not really doing exactly what creators wanted it to do, right? It's just and it serves as a demonstration. Like we just don't know how to make the AI do the exact thing what we want. So yeah, just like have more humility. How big this could get, and how to ensure that if it gets big, it will be aligned.
And how do we encourage more, besides just talking about how do we encourage that amongst researchers? Because like if you're working on creating some sort of like sentient being, like maybe humility isn't one of the first things that you would have in your arsenal.
Yeah. I'm not saying this is easy. Like what I've done for the last 10 years is basically investing in AI companies and then just like hanging around in their kitchens, talking about how things could go wrong. The nice thing is that like these discussions are almost always very interesting. So it's not just kind of trying to scold people or something. It's just like, okay, let's see how what are the limits, at the limit where things could go, and what are the hidden assumptions that we have about the current situation that might get violated, etc. And then just like kind of expand people's thinking like that. So this is like one concrete example that I had done.
I mean, and what is the level of threat that we like? You could see there are these movies where like these groups of people go and try to kill all the AI researchers and stuff like that. Like, what's the level of threat that we have, and how worried should we be about it?
You mean level of threat from AI, or?
Yeah, like exactly. Like, I mean, you could just ban AI development or something. Like, you could do certain things to at least try to slow it down if you're so worried about it. I mean, there might be other ways to attack if you're really worried that the AI is going to kill all the humans. There might be ways to stop humans to work on it today, et cetera.
Yeah, I do think that it's important to think about, like, I call them like symmetric strategies. This kind of like applies both to kind of AI safety, but also like AI capabilities. If you are kind of, if you're thinking that like, okay, we just need like our people to do X, then this is asymmetric strategy. Ideally, you want a strategy where kind of it doesn't really matter who exactly does that.
Yep.
So in that sense, we need to take some kind of like hostile action that is like by definition asymmetric strategy, because there's like a receiving end to that strategy. Whereas like, I don't know what would be a good example of symmetric strategy. Let's all be more sort of more thoughtful and more wise here. I mean, it's like not very effective strategy, but it is a symmetric strategy.
And you talk a lot about the concept of like aligned AI. Like, what does that mean to you, and how does that like get implemented in practice?
Yeah, both are difficult questions. First one is easier. Second one is nobody knows. Like, I have like this story, like a few years, in fact, like almost a few decades, more than a decade ago, when I was in an argument with one AGI developer back then, and who said that, Jaan, what you're doing about this AI safety thing is just completely pointless, because once you have AIs that are super intelligent, what they are going to do is going to be completely unpredictable to us, just like rabbits cannot predict what humans will do. And my response to him was that, wait a minute, why are you engaged in a project with a goal of making the world random and unpredictable?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't we want to build a better future rather than a random future? So I think that's...
So, like, I guess what, like, if you were running OpenAI, or you're running, one of these, you're investors in many of these companies and organizations, like, what should they be doing differently besides just having some humility? Like, how could they be adding some of this safeguards into the process?
So yeah, going back to the previous question, so what I mean by alignment, like, on a large frame, I mean just having AIs similar understanding what a good future looks like than humans would have if we were smarter. It's also important to kind of not ossify our understanding and our moral understanding as it is now on 21st century. But like kind of encode this like underlying dynamic. Now, when it comes to like how to achieve the situation where AIs actually would kind of build future instead of humans or with humans that we would consider good. Yeah, like there's like a many increasingly like big community, kind of AI safety, AI alignment community has been thinking about these things. There are no good answers there, but there are some kind of like general approaches. Like one big question is like how much can be delegated to AIs when it comes to figuring out how to build aligned AIs. And so like ideally in kind of abstract, you would want to have AIs also get more aligned as they get more competent. In fact, like that was like one of the early retorts from people in kind of AGI development, saying that, well, if they are so smart, why would they be dangerous? Because they would, of course, understand what it means to be like aligned. It's like, and then of course the retort is like, of course they would understand, but like they wouldn't be motivated. Just like humans are no longer motivated to kind of like maximally reproduce, even though like we are sort of like ostensibly built for that.
And let's say we have these kind of like AIs that get super smart. Is there a sense that like one AI, because it's just marginally smarter than all the other AIs, takes over? Or do you have like, is there a world where you just have like competing AIs, and what's better? Like, is 20 competing AIs better than one that actually completely takes over?
Yeah, I think I just don't know. It feels to me that the world where you have like multiple competing AIs that are smart enough to develop their successors, that are basically better AI researchers and AI developers than humans are.
Yeah.
It feels unstable because like any early leads that one AI would have would probably amplify over time, so that its successors will get smarter quicker than the successors of the second place AI. But like I might be wrong about this. Like this is a question about like what are the real world frictions are when it comes to enhancing, developing kind of AI, developing successors for an AI. But like yeah, my money would be on the like singleton situation where you have like one AI that just like goes through the what's known as an intelligence explosion, just developing smarter and smarter.
And how do you think like
AIs.
we should be training it? Like 15 years ago, when Microsoft and stuff were coming out with AIs, like there was a lot of they kind of stopped the project, they stopped the public project because a lot of people accused their AI of being racist. And then now you have with like ChatGPT, a lot of people are accusing it of being like woke, kind of on the other side. Like how do you actually like bring your own morality into AI?
Yeah, again, like on a fundamental level, we don't know. Like we only know like some. I mean, and that's why kind of like ChatGPT is failing. It's so easy to jailbreak, right? Because like we just don't know how to do it properly. And also, like importantly, this is like the easy mode. This is like AIs that are not as smart as we are. They are not AIs that are developing their own successors. So it's kind of discouraging that we're already failing when it comes to alignment.
Now, from my standpoint, it seems like the Turing test is no longer like an interesting, relevant thing anymore. When I spoke to Auren and Jaan, the CEO of AI2, he was trying to figure out like, okay, what are the major markers that at least we could see that would indicate that AGI is getting closer or getting close at hand? Like, what do you look for? Like, what are the markers that you would be looking for to see, okay, wow, we really start to get worried now?
Yeah, I don't think I have like very good kind of markers. Like you can obviously put some kind of thresholds, and I mean, it still could be useful to have like some kind of threshold. I mean, there are a couple of markets on Metaculus, for example, when it comes to predicting certain AI capability levels. So I think they potentially could be useful, but because like AI is like so different mind than humans, I think it's very hard to confidently say that if AI cannot do X, then it would be safe. It just might do something that is like Y, and that use it in a way that just completely alien to us to actually do a lot of damage.
Now, this podcast has been recorded about a week after Google released their chatbot AI, which is a competitor to Microsoft's ChatGPT powered Bing. Like we're already seeing this kind of like commercial pressures and competition with the AI. Do you think that's like a good thing because that allows us to bring in more humanity and stuff like that, or do you think that like could make it more dangerous?
So I think I've heard this argument a couple of times that it's kind of like useful to have kind of AI capabilities public as quick as possible, so like the society could prepare. I do think that argument has some weight behind it. In some ways, it would be bad to have like just a lab prepare super capable AI and then just release it like 10 years to like completely unprepared audience. But I don't think that these are decisive arguments. Like I think the counter argument there is that like basically releasing things publicly like ChatGPT, it just like would fuel the race in a way that is very counterproductive when it comes to safety, because I don't know if anyone at Google is really considering long-term long-term implications of AIs that can develop their own AIs, etc. My bet would be on no.
Well, you don't think, because I mean, obviously that's a well-known thing. People have been blogging about it, writing about it, and obviously yourself and Eliezer Yudkowsky and many others have been talking about it. And you don't think that that's starting to prevail or at least permeate within Google?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't like seen any signs of it.
Yeah.
But like, of course, I sit like thousands of kilometers away from Google HQ, so it's possible that I'm not seeing it. But like, I have not seen it.
Interesting. So do you think like something like AGI is a prerequisite for taking major steps as a species, whether it be interplanetary travel, or is there some sort of like step function that really gets set in motion when we get to that point?
I think so. Yes. Like it's like in some ways, if you look at like what's been happening on this planet, then clearly there have been step functions. Like one step function we are like just going through right now, even without AI. Holden Karnofsky has this wonderful series of blog posts called The Most Important Century, where he basically explains this, look, this thing cannot go on. Like if you have like 2% GDP growth for like something like 10,000 years, you will have like multiple Earth-sized economies per each atom in the universe. So like this cannot go on for thousands of years.
So how does it break? Does it break by just like the world destroying itself, or does it break through some other type of way?
Yeah, so that's like a different question. Like, but it's basically the point is that it has to break. Like otherwise, it's just like we run out of atoms. Like exponentials don't go on that forever. It will turn into S curve. But yeah, there are these like step functions, and it's kind of very, very plausible that the next step function will be when you have minds that can self-improve in the form of AI and digital minds. And now the question is, like how does that influence what will happen to humans? Because one of the assumptions that humans have is that we are the smartest species. And so the world and the universe is our oyster. Like once we have AI, once we have AGI, once we have something that is smarter than us, well, of course, we're just going to use it to do interstellar travel, etc. But it's like, yeah, rabbits are not using humans to their ends. So like that's it's like.
But dogs are.
Yeah, or if you I'm kind of like blanking out on the name. The author of *Sapiens*, Harari.
Yeah,
like he mentions that like he kind of reframes how like wheat used humans to proliferate. So like you can frame things in an interesting way. Yes.
No, how do you think of like great power competition as a threat to humanity? I mean, you live just a few kilometers away from Russia. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I am pretty much kind of like living following the world news like literally every day from Ukraine, and like as an Eastern European, like there have been like so many kind of friends who have been saying that look, we Eastern Europeans, we've been kind of just like saying that like told you so. Like this is what Russia looks at, like in its heart. So yeah, this is like sort of an acute situation. But like as for this like bigger question, clearly I do think that races are not good for safety. But I do think that currently the more relevant races are happening in the US, within the US, rather than internationally. But like, of course, this might change.
One thing I've heard you talk about is how fluid our values are over time. How can we keep that in mind when we're planning for the future or thinking about how to move to society?
Yeah, I don't think I have like a very good answer there, but I think like just like realizing this is like a first step. Like it's
walk me through how our values have changed. Like how should we think about like what has happened?
So I mean, right now I'm just listening to the latest podcast episode from 80,000 Hours, and there, I think Christopher Brown talks about the abolition of slavery, and basically his thesis is that it wasn't sort of like a natural thing to occur. There was like a bunch of kind of contingent developments that actually led to it. So that's like an example of.
So we could have been in a world. His theory is we could have been in a world as rich as we are today with potentially with still having slaves.
Yeah, like I mean, again, it is like a claim.
It's another alternative. An alternative present could have been that.
Yes, potentially. So it's like I guess the claim is that it's like what sort of our values currently gonna feel very natural, but it's we shouldn't be kind of like fully invested
that's like a fate that had to be this way or fait accompli or something.
Yeah, that the progress is kind of automatic and like we have reached the peak, so we need to be at least aware of it. Now, of course, the question is like how do you use AI and how do you encode everything? How do you encode kind of moral progress to AI, even in a situation where there might be kind of contingent facts about our history, so you can't just like point to the history and say that like this is the kind of inevitable march of morality.
You spend the vast majority of your time thinking about existential risk, which in some ways is a particular pessimistic line of work. What makes you feel optimistic about humanity?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a technologist, so I do think that I'm mostly sort of techno-optimistic. But like, yeah, AI is sort of like a weird case where it's things will get better and better until they stop.
Yeah.
But
it's
like
every
the
Thanksgiving turkey example type of thing.
Exactly. Yes. So, but like with all the other, not everything. I mean, there are like military technologies that I'm pretty concerned about. Like, I think in general there is like this trend of I think somebody in AI alignment community put it a loss of locality, which means that like the effective radius of technologies is getting bigger, but the planet isn't. So like it's kind of getting easier and easier to affect like bigger and bigger swaths of planet.
Where do you agree and where do you maybe disagree with like a Steven Pinker?
So I don't know. I haven't actually read his books, so I don't. I only know like second hand, and I've seen like many kind of reasonable sounding rebuttals. So for what it's worth, I have actually had like a debate with him like many years ago in Sydney, at Sydney Opera House, and like one thing that I think he just was completely wrong there about was his kind of claim was that, oh, look, there always have been, and I'm not saying that he's kind of like still holds this viewpoint. I hope he doesn't. There always have been like these doomsayers. So like when somebody is kind of like can be classified as a doomsayer, you should not just listen to them. But it's like I think the counter argument that I wish I had back then, only later I was able to think about it, is like, look, you can say that to Manhattan Project scientists who were actually did calculations about what is the probability of igniting the atmosphere. That was the first example of existential risk research. I guess like somebody who would hold opinions like Steven Pinker back then would have just walked to the room and saying like, look, you're being doom mongers here. Like, stop your calculations, because I already know that the answer is going to be that nope, no risk to the planet.
What do you think there's some sort of like personality that where somebody would gravitate more to these like existential risk issues? Like I find it very intellectually interesting to think about, every once in a while. But I think if I was thinking about this every day, I would be like very sad and unhappy and maybe not so great around my kids and stuff like that. So do you think there's a certain personality that people gravitate toward it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't think about them like literally every day. I'm pretty sure there are days where like, and also like, I mean, before this call, I was like coding up a Lisp interpreter. So like I still do a bunch of coding and like just technology development and investing, etc. But yeah, I do think that there is like, I saw like an interesting essay, like a draft of an essay. I don't know if it's going to be out anytime, or if it's already out, I'm not actually sure, where the author claimed that there's a interesting correlation between people who are concerned about existential risks to species and people who are physicists. So like if you look at the people, kind of prominent people, they kind of like more often like sort of, there's like a bias basically that like if you're a physicist, you're more likely than non-physicist to be concerned. Like one explanation there is that, and yes, I am a physicist by education. So it's one way of framing it is that you are kind of naturally taught that the world is composed of atoms or wave function, if you want to go deeper. And like if something happens to the atoms, that's really bad news. It's not just like something for chemists to worry. So like one mindset is like, are you someone who thinks about the world as a collection of atoms, or are you somebody who thinks of the world as collection of people? And if you think about it as a collection of people, then like it's kind of like less natural category to worry about existential risks that come from rearrangement of atoms.
Could you also say that, I mean, the kind of counter would be to physics, the golden age of physics has maybe passed. People who did physics were way more celebrated in the 30s and 40s and stuff like that. And so it would make more sense for someone in physics to be more of a philosopher or something, where that's always in fashion to be a philosopher.
Oh yeah, I think that is a good point, because like indeed, like one puzzle I have is that like, because like computer scientists, they seem to be on average, I think that was also the point of the essay, that like that computer scientists seem to be more dismissive than non-computer scientists.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because they're just so busy, with advancing the frontier. So they have like less time on their hands to like step back and think about, okay, where are we heading with this?
Now, a couple of questions on tech. A lot of people right now accuse some of the major tech companies of being anti-competitive and stifling innovation, either by buying up competitors or just boxing out competitors, which is classically what big companies might do, or using regulatory capture. How do you think about this?
I mostly don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Well, what do you think are the big threats to innovation? Like, how do we increase more innovation in the world?
Yeah, that's another thing that I don't much think about it. Again, like if you're kind of like, if I'm focused on this, like how can we make AI go well, then like innovation, kind of, it comes down to the things like kind of growth. Is growth good or not? Right. So it's like from one hand, it is good in kind of like Peter Thiel sense that like you will get kind of the pie gets bigger, and so there will be less violence, like no argument there. On the other hand, like the runway also gets eaten up, so we get closer to the end of human era on this planet. And is that good? Like, should we have like more? Do we want more time on this planet?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but what if it comes at a bigger cost of violence? Yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is.
Now, we mentioned earlier you're in Estonia, and Estonia is a very forward-thinking kind of very tech-enabled society. People can vote over the internet, for example. Why has Estonia been able to embrace these kind of like more forward-thinking concepts?
Yeah, I do get that question a lot. And my usual answers there is that, like, first of all, like, it's really helps to have to rebuild your infrastructure as a country when internet has already been invented. So just Estonia, when Russians left in '94, we just didn't much of infrastructure left, and internet had already been invented. So like,
but when I think of like, I mean, to me, when I think of Estonia versus Latvia and Lithuania, which are similar area countries with similar populations and similar situations, it does seem like Estonia is significantly more tech forward than those other two.
Yeah, so that's another aspect. Like first, like so again, like it kind of helps to have internet around, but also need like other components. Like for example, we had prime minister back then who was 32 years old and was like, look, we're definitely going to do this digital signature. Like everybody in Estonia should have digital ability to give digital signatures, and government offices are it's compulsory for them to accept those digital signatures. And once that was mandated, you basically solved the chicken and egg problem, where like nobody has the ability to give digital signatures.
So you think if you just swap leaders at that point in time between Estonia and Latvia or something, like you would see differences like going the other way?
Very possible, yes.
Interesting.
And the other thing is, I think Skype was like really good for Estonia. Like, I mean, there are like 5 countries in the world who think that Skype was their invention. But I think Estonia by far has kind of like milked this invention the most. So like, I say that first of all, it kind of served as a boot camp because Skype was made in Estonia mostly. So like hundreds of people got to see like what it means to work for like a international startup. Second, like once Skype was sold, there were a bunch of like investor money that was kind of freed up as a result and went back to feeding the ecosystem. And the third one, I think it's important because like Estonia is small and people kind of know each other. And when somebody kind of like makes something, then people go, oh yeah, I know that guy. That guy is not special. If he can do it, I can do it.
Oh yeah, good point.
So now we have like many unicorns. In fact, like Estonia is like first or second in the world when it comes to unicorns per capita.
Wow. Now you're a very well-known figure in Estonia, but my guess is like if you're walking around in the U.S., you're probably not as recognized. Like what is it like to be like part-time famous?
Oh, it's great. I'm probably like not famous even better. So like one thing that I don't actually do in Estonia, like I get this invites like every once in a while, like just a couple of days ago again, to go on TV. I just don't go on TV. I mean, TV is probably less relevant these days, but like I don't
watch TV news anymore anyway.
yeah, but like basically I don't like be recognized on the street. So like even Estonia can take steps to not do that.
You wear like a mustache and.
No, again, like don't go on TV. So yeah, I don't think that's like sort of in my line of business. It really doesn't help to be kind of recognizable. So like it's just a liability.
Now, how did growing up in the Soviet Union influence you as an adult?
Oh, that's a deep question. So one thing that I think was important was that, I mean, I grew up with my grandparents for many years, as my parents were students when they had me, and they were people who kind of had their best years, their kind of young adulthood, coincide with like first independence period of Estonia, and then they saw this occupation and kind of like barely escaped the war. So like they were like very Russophobic, and basically it's just like every day kept like harping about how good Estonia was when it was independent. So like that's like one thing that definitely colored my childhood. like the associated sort of like distrust of authority that comes from the fact that like you're living in an occupied country, and like the ruling class is not your nation, which I do think has been kind of important as a background.
In the Soviet Union, there was a lot of this like preference falsification where you had to say certain things to get by, but everyone kind of knew everyone else was saying those things to get by.
Yeah.
How does that show your worldview today? Or
one obvious, like without saying like any kind of like object level details, I would say like when I look at like all these waves of cancellation, and like I mean there's like the Future of Life Institute's like what had like a close brush with kind of like cancel culture recently, and like I go like, yeah, I've seen that in Soviet Union, where like basically it's wrong to it's wrong to do X, but if you don't do X, you will be the target of X.
Yep.
Therefore, like you are strongly incentivized to do X. So it's like kind of like a vicious cycle that kind of you need to, even if you're aware of it, it's kind of hard to break.
All right, this has been very interesting and also very depressing as well. But last question we ask all of our guests: what conventional wisdom or advice do you think is generally bad advice?
Yeah, I'm not sure about like advice, but I would say that because of conventional wisdom, I would go back to this, that like this place in the time and in space is normal. It's not normal. It's like if you the normal place in space is completely pitch black because you're too far from the stars to see them. And like the fact that we have a planet that is on room temperature, it's just like completely weird situation when it comes to bigger kind of spatial frame. And when it comes to time, this might be the last years of 100,000 year period, which was during the period during which like human brains were the most complex and future shaping, the most powerful future shaping objects on this planet, and so like we shouldn't assume that this will last.
Well, thank you, Jaan Tallinn, for joining us on World of DaaS. This has been very, very interesting. Now, I know you're not a big Twitterer or anything, but where can people find you online?
Yeah, I don't have like a big online profile, but like you can. I do have like a YouTube list of my talks, for example.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go to YouTube and go check you out there. That would be great. Well, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.